Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. I'm here tonight to bring to you a story that is very disturbing on so many levels. The state of Connecticut should be ashamed of itself for a lot of the hurt that it causes people and animals and families. And if you're not familiar through other media channels, through social media, with the story of Simon, who is on death row in Guilford, Connecticut, you're going to find out all about it tonight. With me is Simon's owner, Dr. David Young. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And one of Simon's champions, a dear friend and someone who you may know from her work with Desmond's Army, Cindy, aka Coco Ring, which is probably what you were more widely known as. Thank you very much for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having us. It really means a lot.
You know, what I try to do is get the word out, and that's what we're here for tonight. Now, Simon has been incarcerated for over a year now.
Yes. Tell
us what happened.
Well, you know, a little back history. We adopted Simon from the Cosgrove Humane Society in Brantford in 2011. He was found running around with his brother and sister, after Hurricane Irene. So we've had him for 7 years, and never any issues in the past. You know, Simon doesn't go out of our yard without us. We have an electric fence, a hidden fence, and we have 2 other fences, a wooden fence and there's a wire fence. On August 8th of last year, Simon was in the yard with his dog sitter. My wife and I were away, so we have always somebody with him, stays with him overnight, playing catch with the dog sitter, when suddenly there was a strange person in the yard with a lacrosse stick with lacrosse gear, who came in through the fence, having apparently cut the fence, and startled both Simon and the dog sitter. Suddenly there's a strange person in the middle of the yard.
Sure.
And Simon, being startled as well, ran up to him, nipped him in the ankle just to kind of scare him off. And instead of retreating, he raised the stick in defiance. Simon bit him in the leg. The kid, who was 12, with 5 older brothers, by the way, so he knows better, dropped the stick. Simon immediately retreated. And the kid sustained 10 stitches. And at the time, you know, the police were called, the animal control officer came and took Simon away, you know, saying that, well, he did nothing wrong because this kid was trespassing. And Simon did nothing wrong. He was protecting his own property, as any dog would do.
He did his job, is what Simon did.
Why we have dogs, not only to love, but to protect us.
Yes.
Right.
That's the...
So, you know, there was a police report made during which the kid was heard chanting and quoted on the police report as saying, "Kill the dog, kill the dog." And so, you know, that was kind of written in stone there. I wasn't aware of this at the time. Once I got home, you know, my son and I went next door and just saw him. We talked to them a little bit. Seemed like everything was okay. You know, who wasn't a kid who didn't make mistakes? And that's
right.
You know, and reasonable people are reasonable. Thought that would be it. So for the first 10 pages, 9 or 10 pages of this police report, it was the animal control officer actually defending Simon, saying he did nothing wrong, he's coming home, all the while in the police report the family saying, "Kill the dog, kill the dog." And she's saying, "No, we're not going to do that. Simon's going back home." So then there was this meeting between a couple of the neighbors who had a kind of an agenda, and a couple of the town's folks. That was planned well in advance, but I was not aware of this meeting until the last minute.
And let me just say this, being a doctor, they knew How can you just
Right.
call in and say, I'm sorry, sick people, dying people, I can't be there?
Correct.
So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Well, that would be abandonment.
Correct. So,
So,
you know, yeah,
can't just do
I
that.
can't.
Yeah.
Right. I want to
So
say.
they're playing on your unavailability.
Correct.
Right. Well, but
Thank
you know,
you.
this was a Friday evening at approximately 5 p.m.
Right.
that my wife and I were informed this meeting was taking place first thing Monday morning, which, you know, is less than a day, you know, really. And so during this meeting, the first selectman was there, the ACO was there, the state ACO was there. And it was during this meeting that it was determined that Simon would be euthanized. And of course, unknown to me and my wife, we were thinking we're bringing Simon home.
Right.
And so we go down to the police station, and the chief of police, Jeffrey Hutchinson, basically says to us, you know, gives us that news that Simon's going to be destroyed, in his words, and that we better not do anything about it, just keep it quiet. So basically he threatened my wife and I. And so we didn't know our rights. You know, had we known our rights, we wouldn't have let them take Simon in the first place,
No,
number one.
of course
Number
not.
two, you know, we just kind of walked out of there stunned. And, you know, in the police report it says, quote, my wife and I seemed resigned to this happening.
Define resigned.
Right.
You're shocked.
We were shocked.
And
You
you're
think
told
you're-
by an authority, this is what's going to happen. I would be in shock
Right.
and go,
Yeah.
oh my God.
There's nobody who's been in your shoes,
Right.
who's done the right thing and said, all right, well, you know, if the dog has to be quarantined and you have to take him,
Right.
okay, I'm going to get him back. So you've got that in your head, and then all of a sudden,
Right.
hey, guess what? We changed our mind.
Right.
We're gonna just kill your dog.
Well,
and
usually dogs
deal with it.
You know, if something happens on someone's property and the dog is on its own property, they're quarantined on property.
Correct.
Yeah, that can be
and
done.
I've had that done myself.
They shouldn't have taken
personally,
Simon
yes.
to
No.
begin with.
Right.
Number two, you know, this secret meeting was done on taxpayer dollars, which is illegal. It violates the open meeting law. They can't do this.
Right.
And so they knew exactly what they were doing, which is why the chief of police told us, we better keep this quiet. Don't make any trouble.
Yeah. Guess what?
And then you met me.
Right. So,
Guess
you know,
what?
luckily for us, our dog sitter was involved with Tom Page and Richard Rosenthal from Long Island with Lexus Project, and that's still out there. They have a website, and she was involved. So she helped me make that connection.
Awesome.
Actually, that's how I found the whole community.
Good.
And then the rest is history there. But since then, the dog has been in quarantine for over a year, and took them over a year to have the first hearing. It's supposed to be within 90 days. They're supposed to give a reasonable,
Yeah.
a good response.
Yeah, there's no reason
There
to
was
have
nothing.
Simon there
Right.
all this time. That you know,
Exactly.
I'm always going to go there. It verges on cruelty. It is cruelty to keep an animal
Right.
locked up like that for a lengthy period of time when he has a family who obviously wants him home.
So the important thing is this, you know, there's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, there's a violation of the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment, and, you know, illegal search and seizure. You know, Simon, even though he's a family member, he's considered property.
Right,
You know?
of course,
Yes.
because our laws are great.
So,
Yeah.
you know, a year goes by, we have a hearing, a lot of people show up, and including the media, and it didn't look good for the town. They couldn't defend themselves. They couldn't answer yes or no questions, or in fact, they would not answer yes or no questions. This is a hearing at the Department of Agriculture, which is nothing but a kangaroo court, which was clear. And during the hearing, the hearing officer has an attorney whispering in his ear. So there's a conflict of interest, clear. So they didn't like that because it made them look bad. Almost as soon as that hearing was over, they sent out a notice basically saying that, well, let's have another meeting, but nobody else could come. And it's going to be a private meeting.
let's have a meeting about our meeting to discuss the meeting that we're
Correct.
going to have that we didn't have.
Right.
Because we don't want an audience like
Right.
we had last time, which they referred to everyone in that room as being the audience.
Right.
Wasn't a game show. I didn't buy a ticket.
Right.
Okay?
But this is public. This
Yeah.
is
This is
public.
public.
And
Yeah,
so
and
public
that's as
are-
it should be.
But they've never had any public show up. So they were pretty embarrassed by the spectacle, I think.
Sure, probably very uncomfortable because, kangaroo courts don't
Correct.
operate very well,
So in a real
in the
court,
daylight.
in a real court, yes or no questions are expected to be answered yes or
Right.
no. This would never have flown in real court.
Right.
And so they didn't want that to happen again. And so they're saying that the public cannot attend.
Doesn't
Which
that end up being a violation too?
that's a violation of the First Amendment. So
Yeah,
I'm challenging them on that.
Absolutely.
And this is really on principle because this happens a lot. There's a lot of dogs in quarantine who should not be there.
And a lot of owners who don't know enough to fight.
Correct. Or don't have the resources.
Yeah.
Right.
They end up
Yeah.
under the same impression that, okay, I'm going to get my dog back. And, they're stunned into inaction.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah. Or just resign themselves to just, well,
That
Yeah, well, this is what has
what's-
to happen.
Right. Because you don't know.
You never think.
And that's
You never
right.
think like it's ever going to happen to you.
Correct.
You don't suspect that a child is going to use some very bad judgment and
Right. But
cause
again,
the whole
who
thing.
wasn't the child and who used bad judgment in their life, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Everybody.
no.
And so, but the point is to learn, and so what this is about is, it's not about the child or the kid. He's a teenager.
Right.
He's not a child.
Right.
But it's about the parents. It's about the parents who are looking to make a buck. They're looking to cash in. The child that wants this to go away, he wants to live his life. He wants to
Right.
go on. He plays football. He plays lacrosse. He's very active. Normal kid doing his normal stuff. He's fine. There's no lasting problem there.
Right.
But it's the parents who are looking to, cash in,
Yeah,
basically,
well, it's-
on the expense of our family member.
Right.
And this happens, unfortunately, a lot.
It does. We live in a litigious society. Everybody just wants to bring lawsuits and what can I get out of this?
Right.
We've lost our human factor.
Correct.
There's nobody in that house next to you thinking about how you're feeling. That your dog is a loved family member. That this animal could die.
Yeah.
That's not.
Well, what it comes down to, if it was anybody else, though, happens to be one of the neighbors, a neighbor right next to them, is politically connected, used to be on the Board of Education, and used those political connections. And so they had really thought and hoped this would go quietly. They'd never expected this to happen. They never expected us to raise holy hell and challenge them.
Not going away.
And they warned us and they threatened us to keep it quiet because
And what's
because
like
it
the
looks
first
bad.
thing you're going to do when someone tells you that?
Right.
Especially when they're wrong.
Right.
And you've got such a stake.
But
in
some
it.
people may just
Yeah.
let it go. I'm a busy person.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hold practically
Yes.
2 jobs, and
Yes.
it's like I don't have time for this. This is not what I asked for.
No, not
Right.
at all.
And so, but unfortunately, a lot of people would walk away from this.
Yeah, not everybody is geared for the fight. Not everybody has the heart for the fight or the temperament.
Well, you look at, I have many, many police reports from the town of Guilford of dog bites, both off property, off leash, on public land. And the person who was bit by this dog, these various dogs, sometimes
Right.
2-3 times this dog offended,
Right.
the dogs are home alive. And, again, it's reasonable people being reasonable. It's, things happen. It's not, it's not, people don't have ill will. And most people understand
people.
this. And so all these reports, in fact, Simon's, as far as I know, the first dog that the town of Guilford has ordered put down, even without any history in the last 7
Well,
years.
this is what I was going to ask you. These other reports that you've come across, did these animals have a history?
Yes.
They had histories of previous bites, some of
Yes.
them. And Simon has had no other incidents.
Correct.
He's been an exemplary citizen.
Right.
He's been a good boy.
Right.
He's probably so grateful that, you know, he's got such a good home. He's got
Right.
a family that loves him.
The only difference is you have a family with an agenda.
Yes.
Right.
That is the only difference.
And I had the pleasure of sitting in the room with that gentleman, and it was written all over his face that he's just in it
For the money.
for the money.
Yep.
And to sit there and smirk and then walk by me with a smirk and a ha-ha, you know,
Yeah.
that is not a human being.
Right.
I'm sorry. You are lower than that. And there's no
No.
animal.
And it's really-
you know,
it's-
they're all above you.
My son calls them sketchy.
Sketchy.
That's
Yeah.
a good
Yeah, it's
word.
very
That's a really
sketchy.
good
So,
word.
you know, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. You know, so to that end, you know, on Monday, you know, there's this private hearing that the public or the media is not allowed to attend. So the media, here's your invitation, because the media loves to be told that they're not allowed.
Oh, exactly.
They'll jump all over the thing, you know.
What's going to happen if someone tries to walk in there? What are they going to do? Tell them to go away?
Exactly.
They can.
They can't. Well, I don't know.
Well,
We'll
I
see.
guess they can close the door and say, no, I'm sorry, it's not open to the public. Well, then once they do that, bam,
We'll see.
okay?
Yeah.
But it's not going to stop me
Yeah.
from being there. on
So I'm
Monday.
challenging them on First Amendment grounds.
Yeah,
in
there's
a
just
federal
sounds like an
lawsuit, so.
awful lot of
Yeah.
of violations here from the get-go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as I was saying before the show, there are too many animal control officers that aren't qualified to make the decision.
No.
And they all want to fall back on, well, you know, I can't reverse it. Can this person reverse it? Once they do it, they don't know how to reverse it.
Well,
they put it off on everybody else.
This animal control officer was ordered. So I
Right.
will
They're
guarantee
ordered
you
by where? By whom?
by
Well,
her boss, who
Right.
is the
Who
first selectman.
is
Yeah. So,
Correct.
and then he
And
wants to
because-
say he doesn't have the power to reverse it.
Right.
Well, and he clearly does, right?
Right.
And so, in fact, the Department of Agriculture, you know, said several times, "I wish you guys would just work this out between the two of you."
Right, and they said that publicly.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the meeting, you know, if you
Right.
guys can come to a happy ending beforehand, that would be awesome.
But you know, really, what's the happy ending?
The happy
They-
ending
they
is
get
to
your
let
dog
Simon
back.
come
Exactly.
home
And-
is face that, you know, to say, oh, I'm sorry, it was done in high
Yeah.
emotion and
Nobody-
wrong. Hey, I've
Nobody
been
wants to
wrong.
admit they're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a public. I was wrong, which
Yeah.
you know it stings even
Well,
more.
they're not going to do that.
Well,
Have you ever met a politician who wanted to admit wrong unless they were forced to?
No.
Well, on that, I have to
Well,
say,
maybe we can force the hand.
and I have to give kudos to Mr. Scanlon that came to the hearing, because I felt that his testimony there was very proper and that he helped, because there were a lot of rumors going on about Simon chased him off the property and Simon did this and Simon did that, and he was stellar in coming forth, and the town of Guilford subpoenaed him. So I was just sitting there in my glory going, true. And he just sat there and he said, no, it was this, and this. This dog never did anything to me. I was on his property and he did what he should do.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank him for that.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank those tons of people that are out there. We have some ladies that have been really stand up. Now, Geronimo in our organization, she was the first one to go to one of the hearings. That's how
Love her.
Yep. I just saw her at our Campbell. So she was the one person, and that's how I got involved.
right?
And I said, well, gee, you know, I live by these folks. This is terrible. No, no.
Yeah.
And
Well, what's really important is this sets a very dangerous precedent, because
sure
Simon
does.
was on his own property what this
Right.
means.
What if he was? What if the person who came on your property was an intruder?
Well,
Exactly.
he was an intruder.
Well, an intruder
Let's say
with malintent.
Right.
You know,
Real
what if
malintent.
Exactly,
you know,
and the
it was
dog
somebody
doesn't
with a
know this.
gun or someone
Right, and-
you know who meant to do harm
So
to your
what
sitter
this means
or your family?
is
Right.
that you're not safe on your own property. Your dog is not safe on your own property.
Right.
And so this is very important. Everyone should be interested in this because
Absolutely.
you know, if your dog protects you and your family, God forbid our granddaughter was there too,
Right.
and somebody came into our property, you're damn right this dog is going to protect. And what this means is that you have no rights on your own property. If you know, anybody can take your dog, any ACO can take your dog and say, we're going to kill your dog for doing it, for protecting you. You know, that's unfortunate. And now, you know, interestingly, somebody just messaged me on Facebook who's from Florida. And Florida has the stand your ground law.
Oh,
And so
Yes.
if you shoot somebody, you're actually in your right to shoot somebody. But
Right.
in Florida, if you have a dog and your dog bites, you are not protected, even in Florida. So this is
So you can
not-
shoot somebody, but your dog
this is
can't
not-
bite somebody.
This is not
Okay,
unique
but
to
they want to
Connecticut.
take the guns away from the legitimate gun owners, but you can't protect yourself with your
With a dog.
With your
Yeah,
dog,
your dog
or
can't have your
gun,
back.
or so.
Right.
Now, you know, are we gonna not allowed to use our fists next? I
Right.
mean, it's
Right.
kind of getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So, you know, so it's and it's pretty unfortunate, you know. And again, the animal control officer came to Simon's defense. She was ordered to change her story. Now she's trying to, and during the hearing, you can see she was very uncomfortable.
Very, because I believe she really and truly
Yeah.
did not want this to happen to Simon, but
Yeah.
she is
She's the pawn.
the pawn in
Yeah.
this. She was very new,
And she just wants a job.
and she
Yeah, and that's
Right.
a terrible
And I
position for
think
her to
she
be
has-
into.
Right, and it is very bad because I never want, you know, her to think that I ever said anything badly about her because I said something about it being animal cruelty, what's happening to Simon, and it was never directed at the animal shelter or that ACO.
Right.
Just got to put that out there, but the government,
Well, unfortunately, you know, in a real court,
Right.
if she was up on the stand under oath, and I'll guarantee you, if she was asked, were you ordered to change your story, she'd have to answer that honestly.
Yeah.
I know.
Whether she would or not, I don't know,
Yeah.
but she would have to, and I
Well-
think we wouldn't be surprised with that answer. You know,
You're absolutely right. I would not be surprised, and I really, not that I want it to go there,
Right.
but you know.
So, you have a Facebook page.
yes,
And it's Save Simon. And you post all the updates. That's where I got these pictures from. I stole them from
Yeah.
your page, just to make the point that he's a family dog.
right.
You know, we've got them
Oh,
rolling
there
on
they
and
are.
off
Yeah.
while we've been talking.
Yeah.
He's
there
all
he
your
is.
updates will be there.
Yeah.
The outcome of this meeting. There's information for people to write letters if they want to on the page as well.
There is sometimes, you know, being Facebook, it's hard to find things.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it is.
And so if you go to the Town of Guilford website, or if you search the Selectman's office of the Town of Guilford, you will find all the numbers, all the addresses of where to find. There's 5 select persons. Matt Huey is the selectman, the first selectman. And, you know, Matt had every opportunity to do the right thing because he inherited this,
Yes.
but he's not done the right thing because probably of some political pressure. You know, unfortunately, he could have been the hero in this.
Absolutely.
But I think there's some political forces in Guilford
Oh,
that
yeah.
probably.
Well, you know, like the thin
know.
blue line, they call
Yes.
it. There's
Yeah.
like that political
Right.
line where nobody wants to cross or
Yeah.
undo what's been done before, and it's a good old boys club.
Absolutely.
And this is a family pet at stake. This is a
Right.
family who cares and who loves their dog.
Yep.
The dog did not do anything wrong. He was protecting his ground. I mean, any dog, you know, you'd have 2 types of dogs, one that would have been afraid and run, and
Yeah.
one that would have reacted. And, you know, you've got people with dogs who react to a guy with a hoodie or a guy with a hat. This
Right.
was a kid with gear and a stick and you know.
Simon doesn't like sticks. 'Cause
Okay.
I think he was probably hit
Probably
with sticks
beat.
in the past.
So
know.
you put all that together, and it's you know it's become a recipe
Right.
for disaster because Simon's going to pay the ultimate price for doing the right thing.
I mean, he'll fetch sticks, of course. But,
Well, of course.
but you know, threatened with a stick, we have a raised stick, and he doesn't like it. You know, there's been many, you know, Simon. We have visitors all the time. You know, people are in and out. All my son's friends are in and out. Workers are in and out occasionally, and Simon just wants to help and play and have fun. You
Right.
know. And
so there's
I've
nobody
many-
that ever come to your house and said, "Hey, could you put your dog away because he scares me"?
No.
He's
In
not
fact,
that dog.
I had somebody write a letter who's terrified of dogs, who came in, you know, and you know we had a bathroom done, and she came in and take a look at a few things, and she was terrified of dogs. So she was bit as a child, and Simon she was fine with Simon.
Right.
You know, he just again wanted to play and help, and she wrote a letter on his behalf, as did many people have written letters,
And I have
including his dad.
video. Right.
So
there's video of me
there's
visiting him.
still time to write letters.
Yes. Oh, yes.
This and again on Facebook, or you can go to the town of Guilford because we're sort of getting to that point in time to wrap it up. If anybody is going to show up to at least even be outside on Monday, where do they have to be and when?
Well, it's at the Department of Agriculture.
Oh, I didn't write the
I'm
address.
trying to remember the address.
In Hartford?
Sorry,
In Hartford.
in Hartford.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Google that.
Big state building in Hartford.
And what
Department of
time is this going to be?
It's going to be at 9:30. The hearing or the meeting's at 10, but I would
Okay,
encourage
so
people
there's going to be a
dial.
gathering at 9:30.
And right on the corner, actually, there's parking. It's very inexpensive. Do not park on the road, because then you end up with a ticket.
Okay, so bring your
My
signs.
husband doesn't know.
Bring
No,
your
he does.
signs.
I told him.
Be respectful.
Yep.
You
Yes,
know,
please.
if
And stay on the sidewalk.
and stay on the
Stay
sidewalk.
on the
If you
sidewalk.
can't get in the building for the meeting, then you can at least be outside.
Right.
And
Folks,
carpool.
Folks, thank you so much
Yes,
for joining us.
carpool.
Yeah.
It's time to say goodnight.
Good
And I
night.
didn't plan it with you, but we're going to say peace,
Peace,
love,
love,
and dogs.
and dogs.
Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and really
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Wish
Thank
you
you
the
for
best
having
of
me.
luck.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Save Simon. Sorry.